Hello and welcome to the Week 15 edition of the official EstablishTheRun.com NFL betting show. My name is Adam Levitan, as always joined by Evan Silva, also joined by Mark Dankenbring. Once again, Evan not only won the 30 ball in DFS on Sunday, but he also got me on this show where I had Washington football team plus 4.5. He had Dallas minus 4.5. I will say Taylor Heineke went down in that game. Evan, Taylor Heineke got hurt.
Well, I mean, that's what happens when you face Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Micah Parsons. I mean, he went down twice. They knocked him out of the game twice.
I know. I'll take the L. I mean, they were drawing dead. The final score wasn't even indicative of how bad the Washington football team got beat in that game. I will take the L there. Anyway.
I just felt ganged up on because, Mark agreed with you, and It was a sweet victory. I'm telling you, I was more excited about that one than anything that happened in DFS. Like, I needed that one.
If that's true, you actually have mental problems. But anyway,
I was able to finish a rock solid 1-1 on the week where I also picked the Jets.
Yes. Taysom has buried Evan over the last couple of weeks for sure. Mark, good morning, afternoon.
How's it going, Adam? Yeah, the heater officially came to an end last week, and stunning fashion. The Browns had a brutal backdoor loss, leading 24-3 in the second quarter. Didn't score the rest of the game. Yeah. Got caught by not Lamar Jackson, but Tyler Huntley. So that was a tough one to swallow for sure.
Yeah, first team all preseason Tyler Huntley. And by the way, Lamar Jackson, a major doubt for this week as well. And we're going to be talking about Tyler Huntley plenty for sure. I mean, first team all preseason quarterback was Tyler Huntley. Also, Ramondre is an interesting play on the Saturday slate too. We will be doing a Saturday show for subscribers, Leone and I, at 11 Eastern tomorrow morning ahead of the 2-game slate. Of course, the 2 games are Raiders, Browns, and Patriots, Colts, as you see here on the screen. But anyways, on today's show, we'll be doing what we always do. We'll have a little draft with some picks, talk them over. I'll be taking one prop and one side. I think these guys are taking some size and totals and stuff like that. Mark, I'll give you the honors for your first selection here.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's a pretty tough week overall. Obviously, we've seen so many players placed on the COVID list, and just injuries continue to mount up. And this morning, there's a handful of bets that I wanted to take and have already been derailed in the last couple hours. I like Seahawks plus 4.5, and Tyler Lockett is on the COVID list now. And I mean, it's just a really hard week to handicap anything, and just a hard season in general. I know, when I first got into betting, the discourse was to always kind of place your bets earlier in the week on Monday and Tuesday, trying to get some closing line value. And the past couple of seasons, that's just completely evaporated. It's almost been beneficial to wait later in the week. And I know this season I've, liked to wait until Friday when the final injury reports come out to kind of make some final decisions. But, sorry for the tangent there, but, this week I think it's a tough week. And, I grew up in Cincinnati. I now moved out to Denver, and obviously we got the Bengals Broncos coming up. And so I kind of feel inclined to pick there. It's a game with minimal COVID and injury impact at this point. The Bengals did place Riley Reif on the IR this morning, and Chidobe Awuzie is on the COVID list. But other than that, it's a relatively straightforward matchup. So the Bengals here on Fox Bet, they still have a +3 lineup. So I did take Bengals +3 against the Broncos. It's not the best matchup on paper for either team. I expect this to kind of be low scoring. The total's at 44 here. So, I think the Bengals can keep it close here. My reasoning for the bet is mostly I just think these two teams are pretty evenly matched. I don't really see the Broncos pulling away here. And overall, I just kind of have a little trust in the Bengals to bounce back here. So I like the +3 number for the Bengals. It's +2.5 at most places, which I don't necessarily love. So, it's kind of tough to give out the +3 when it's only on one book. But since it is available in Colorado, I'll go with the +3 here for the Bengals.
Yeah. Reminder of line shop. I mean, the difference between 3 -118 and 2.5 -105 is absolutely massive. And we can quantify that. I don't have it in front of me, but it's just absolutely ridiculously massive. Will be another beautiful day here in Denver on Sunday. Looks like 56 and sunny without much wind at all. Certainly good for the pass game should the Bengals need to employ it. Yeah, I mean, I'd agree these teams are evenly matched. I don't really have a take. I think that the line is roughly right, but getting the 3 there, I do think makes a difference.
Let me ask you this, Mark. Are you concerned that the Bengals are coming off this overtime game and now going into a pretty tough road environment? I understand that the weather is beautiful in Denver. It's actually really nice here even. It's windy as hell, but it's like 60 degrees out. But in Denver, it's still, the altitude. So coming off the overtime game, going to play at altitude, does that in my matchups right up, I picked the Broncos to win. Then I looked down, I didn't even realize that they were favored. They're favored by 2.5. But does that concern you, the venue?
A little bit for sure. And coming off the overtime loss, they played, a little bit longer of a game and more strenuous than Denver as they kind of rolled the Lions last week. Overall, it's more so just like a game environment thing. Like the Broncos are just so conservative. Pat Thorman wrote in his pace article that the Broncos have been running, I think 52% of the time in neutral situations, which is the most in the league. And so, I just think it's going to be kind of a close game. And I'm more worried about Zach Taylor just coming out with this run first mentality again and playing slow and the Bengals getting behind and having to chase. That's my bigger worry, I think, more so than like coming into Denver in the altitude. I just don't know if the Broncos just offensively can pull away stylistically from the Bengals.
Yeah, no, I'd agree there for sure. I hope we'll talk about DFS tomorrow night, but in order for Chase and T to have big games here, like they need to be pushed a bit because otherwise the Bengals can go conservative also. Evan, you're on the clock for your first selection here on this big Week 15 betting show.
Yeah, I'm starting out with Colts -2 at home against the Patriots. Both teams coming off of their bye weeks. I think that the Colts are a really good team at this stage. I remember saying, like, it almost, like week 1, it almost feels like their season is almost over with all the injuries that they had incurred. Carson Wentz, was having foot surgery. Quentin Nelson was down. I mean, it was brutal early in the season for Indianapolis. I think they're one of the best teams in the league at this point. I do not think that the Patriots are going to be able to stop the Colts running game. We have seen Jonathan Taylor is legitimately matchup proof from a fantasy standpoint. Their offensive line is fully intact. Ryan Kelly back from the COVID list. I think their defense is just solid across the board. And I just think that the Colts are a better team. I know the Patriots have a better record, but the Colts are a better team at this stage at home. I think they can win by a field goal or more.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting game, and I actually like the slate on Saturday. I think it's a really interesting slate on Saturday with obviously a ton of COVID news around the Browns, but good 2-game slate on Saturday to ease us into the Saturday action. I think that it's hard to project Jonathan Taylor for like massive games in this spot, but man, like I'm playing Jonathan Taylor in DFS. Like there's no way I'm not playing Jonathan Taylor on this slate, and I agree that he will be matchup proof here. I do think the Patriots have impressed me they can win multiple ways, man. Like Mac can actually win games for you, and they can win with the run game too. And we'll see on the status of Damian Harris as well. Should have more info on that later today. All right, I'm gonna go with a prop, man. I mean, come on, let's not be ridiculous here. I'm gonna go with a prop that is not gonna make it into our official props because it's a little bit thin, but I think I have a pretty good read on the way that Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Darrell Williams have been getting used. Darrell is playing a ton, but it's typically on third downs, in 2-minute drill, in hurry up. And I think that you can get a lot of plays off against the Chargers. The Chargers play so fast and they throw the ball at such a high rate that you can get a lot of plays off. So this Chiefs team, like Evan and I have talked about, is now defense, run the ball, and win that way. And so I'm going to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire over 12.5 carries -130 on FanDuel. CEH is the clear base back. I mean, they keep talking about wanting to involve him in the pass game, but that's not the way they do it in the games. In the games, it's just like, hey, we're just going to go on first and second down, and that's where CEH is going to get the bulk of his carries. So I'll go over 12.5 carries for CEH here. I'm always a little bit worried about efficiency with him, but 12.5 carries, I think, is solid. We have around 14.5 projected here. Not an official prop, unofficial, pot only prop.
Yeah, I like that. earlier in the week, I wanted us to get the CEH over rushing yards at 50.5, and it was poo-pooed, because it's an over. And I wasn't Leone and just didn't come in and fire it off immediately within the first 5 minutes. So, but now it's up to 57.5, 58.5 elsewhere.
Oh, wow.
I kind of wish we would have taken the rush yards. But the carries will do. I think wasn't the carry line at 13.5 earlier? I feel like 12.5 is lower than what it was earlier in the week.
Let me double check the line here, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it might. Yeah, I'm seeing Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yep, 12.5. It's 12.5 everywhere. It's juiced up though on DraftKings. It's minus 140. Best line is FanDuel 13.5 minus 130. 12.5 minus 130. Sorry.
We did take in the props Patrick Mahomes over pass attempts.
Yeah,
I thought I saw.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That was there was some really.
I didn't bite on that one. I was a little skeptical of that one.
Yeah, and then we took under on completions too, which blew everybody's mind in the Discord. But
Okay.
The line's got like completely out of whack, and that's a whole other story for another show. It's a little bit more complicated. Yeah. But anyways,
hey, let me ask you guys. Do you guys ever look at longest reception, longest completion, that kind of stuff?
I haven't, but I know a lot of people like betting them.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're interesting because, you'll see a guy with his longest reception is like 17.5 yards, a guy maybe like Jalen Guyton, who, he might only catch one ball in the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that those are interesting at times. That's not actually his prop here. Yeah, it's 14.5, but just sometimes you'll see like, what, that dude's, his longest reception prop is 22.5 yards. Like, that's crazy. He might only catch 2 or 3 balls in the entire game.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, I wanted to ask you guys about that.
Well, now that Evan has 30K in his DraftKings account, he's looking for more markets to bet on, like longest reception and other props. All right. Who are we up to, Mark?
Sure. Yeah, I'll take it. This one's a little tricky. I'm going to take the Eagles here. This one's a little tricky because it's moved a ton this morning. So, I have a few bets I like in this game, though. I mean, the Washington football team is just absolutely decimated by COVID. I mean, their COVID list is insanely long. And then also, like, Terry McLaurin is still battling his concussion. He was a DNP yesterday. J.D. McKissick was DNP with his concussion. Curtis Samuel was working on the side field today for a hamstring. It was labeled hamstring rather than the groin he's been dealing with, and the Eagles are coming off their bye. I think the Eagles, the line currently, I believe, is minus 9.5. This morning it was minus 7 and has continued to move. I like it at 9.5. And I think if it gets up to 10 or 10.5, I'm fine with that as well. But ideally I'd try and pounce on it soon before it gets to double digits. And then I also just kind of like the under in this game. You can get at 44.5. On FanDuel. To me, that this game environment kind of sets up as one. We've seen the Eagles want to run the ball a ton, and I don't think there's going to be much resistance from the Washington football team. They're down their top, I think, 6 or 7 defensive linemen. So I expect the Eagles to be able to control the game here. Jalen Hurts working on a little bit of a bum ankle. We're expecting him to play, but he's coming off a high ankle sprain. So I think they're just going to hand it off a lot to Miles Sanders and Boston Scott. And I saw that Jordan Howard, got in a limited practice. So there's a chance he could play. I could see this being a game where the Eagles rush the ball like 40 to 45 times and just chew up a bunch of clock and win whatever, 27-10 or something along those lines and come in under the 44.5. So I like the Eagles minus 9.5. I'll take that as my official one. But if you can't get to that number, I also like the under.
Yeah, I mean, this is like one of the COVID stories, right? And this is like the story of the week is like which teams are most affected by COVID and how good are their backups and are their backups ready to play? And that's like, kind of the theme of the week, right? Like, I don't know. Like Washington could be down to their 4th-string center. Like obviously like their whole defense is decimated. It's really hard to tell how they'll play. We have a situation with the Browns also with cluster of COVID stuff. And so, it's a big part of the week in DFS and the betting for sure. Evan?
Yeah. And, Dago made a good point on Twitter. I was thinking the same thing that he'll claim that I stole the idea from him. But that, if you're playing in like season long and you're trying to make a start sit decision right now, and it's between like Mike Williams, he doesn't have the best matchup tonight, but Mike Williams and some dude playing on Sunday, like you kind of lean toward Mike Williams because that he's going to play.
Yeah.
You know, the dude playing on Sunday could pop up on Friday or Saturday, and with COVID. I mean, it's gotten to that point where it's that big of a concern.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. So and you got to maximize your bench spots too if you're in the playoffs. Like, you know, not rostering multiple kickers or defenses or anything like that. Like, you want to have dudes on your bench.
For sure.
Yeah. But all right. So my second pick, I started off with Colts -2. I'm going to go with Browns +1.5. Now, the Browns have obviously been slammed by COVID, but the Browns are a pretty smart team. They, tend to make optimal decisions. Kevin Stefanski is going to still have a big hand in the game plan and all that. And I think Case Keenum is, a solid game manager, and he's going to make smart decisions. The concern is that, they have cluster injuries on their offensive line right now. Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin tore his patellar tendon, Jedrick Wills, and they're facing a Raiders pass rush that's pretty good, especially on the perimeter. But I think that Case Keenum will make good decisions. They're going to put the ball in Nick Chubb's belly so many times on Saturday, and getting Njoku back helps. I think that he could have a big game here, and I think the Raiders. I mean, and defensively, the Browns are still strong. They did lose Troy Hill, and Hunter Renfrow is going to go off again. And they lost John Johnson, but they've got studs still up front. The Raiders have scored 16 points in 4 of their last 16 or fewer points in 4 of their last 5. I think that their offense is generally broken. The Browns can win this game with their running game, with their defense at home. Case Keenum, caretaker. Give me the points. Give me the 1.5.
Yeah, this line, I think, people's first reaction is, oh my God, you can't bet on the Browns. They're missing their whole team. This line opened Browns -6.5. It is built into the line that they have lost their entire team. The line has moved 7 points, so you get +1.5 now, whereas it opened -6.5. I also think the quarterback thing, people think that, I think people overrate how much Baker is worth. The game plan and execution, I don't think is going to change a lot. So I almost took Browns +1.5. Also, I definitely like that one. You guys don't have to tell me to bet a home dog in an island game like we're going to see on Saturday night between the Raiders and the Browns. For my last selection here, I'm going to go to the sides. And I get that Urban Meyer's a donkey, man. I get it. I mean, dude is just a stone cold moron. I totally understand. This line was hovering around 3.5. Urban Meyer gets fired and it goes to 5. I mean, Devontae Adams is worth like maybe half a point, maybe a point. Like the best players in the NFL that are non-quarterbacks are worth like a half a point. You're telling me Urban Meyer is worth 2 points to the spread? And so, I don't want to bet on the Texans, but they're forcing my hand here, giving me +5 when the line should be closer to 3.5, all because Urban Meyer got fired. And I get it. He's a donkey. I don't think it's worth 2 points. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Texans. You can find some 5s out there on Fox and Rivers. It looks like FanDuel has a 5 out there as well. All right. There you have it. 6 can't miss stone cold 1,000 star gold locks for this weekend's NFL action. As I said, we have a bunch coming up actually. Tonight, I'll be with Cody for the Showdown show ahead of the big ETR holiday party. Tomorrow, I'll be with Leone ahead of the 2-game slate. That's at 11 a.m. And then tomorrow night, I'll be with Silva and Wiggins for the main slate DFS show. Hope to see you all there. For Evan, for Mark, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.